Hello everybody, I'm Eternal Flame here, and today I'm here to talk about something that I actually really like talking about JJK, and it's just a really interesting topic to me because I've seen a lot of people bring this up, which that topic is the potential of if JJK does have a world building problem and just JJK's world building, and I wanted to give my opinion on it today, which is what the purpose of this very video is. However, before we do get into this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Like anime content like this, we have a bunch more on the channel, especially Jujutsu Kaisen, but we do have other animes we're planning out. So without further ado, let's actually get into this. So first, before I can even give my answer to this question, I do need to talk about why some people do believe JJK have a world building problem, and if they are actually wrong about it or not wrong about it. And that's mainly because of the fact that we know quite a bit about the JJK world. However, while we do know quite a bit about the JJK world, there is still quite a lot that's being kept mysteries to us. Like, we only know what is absolutely necessary to know, which is where most people's problem with JJK world building has actually come from. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, what do I mean by this? Well, one of my easiest examples is look at the Zenin clan in comparison to the Gojo clan. In terms of the Gojo clan, we only know one member of it, and that's Gojo himself, and that he basically represents the clan. Not much is known about it, even though it's supposed to be one of the big three Jujutsu sorcerer families. You know, one of the families that's supposed to have a high amount of political power over the Jujutsu world. However, when you look back to the Zenin clan, there are over 10 members of it that we know about, 3 of which we have very deep character exploration of, those being Maki, Megumi, and Toji. And that's not even to talk of the Kamo clan, something we know more about their technique from someone who's not even technically a part of the clan itself, being Choso as well as their brothers and the literal Kamo clan representative themselves. There are other examples of this too, however this is the main one that I can think of, and this is because of how JJK treats its world building. JJK treats its world building by only giving us what's absolutely necessary in order for the story to function, and that's when it begins to explore. While it does introduce concepts, it doesn't go as in-depth into the concepts unless it's absolutely necessary for the story itself. For example, knowing a lot more about the Zenin clan is absolutely needed, especially for Maki's story, since Maki's story is literally about wiping out the Zenin clan, as well as Toji's story, since Toji's entire conflict comes from the Zenin clan to begin with, as well as Megumi's story, which isn't as prevalent to know about the Zenin clan. However, he still has some conflict with the Zenin clan to begin with as well, and all 3 of these characters need the Zenin clan to be expanded on in order for their plots to make sense. However, the Gojo clan and the Kamo clan, those don't need as much expansion, since they aren't as necessary for the plot. The plot only expands on what is absolutely necessary in terms of world building. After all, the Gojo clan isn't exactly necessary to Gojo's character. The Gojo clan isn't a part of Gojo's story. He doesn't really care much about his family. What he cares about is his students, and that's all he really cares about. And, well, Noritoshi Kamo kind of has the issue of he's a side character, so the Kamo clan is only going to get so much exploration. There are a lot of concepts in JJK that either have the chance of never going to be explored again, or likely not going to get as much focus on them as people would like them to have, only getting the amount that is necessary for the actual plot in order for the plot to function. However, is this an issue? And that is the main thing I'm now going to focus on, which in my opinion, I don't actually think that this is an issue. The reason why I don't think this is an issue is mainly because of the fact that most of the time in JJK, no one ever really talks about how the world building isn't enough for the story to function. After all, JJK's goal is not to expand on every little detail that we could have ever wanted to know about this expansive world that is Jujutsu Kaisen, but this is more so just people wanting to see more because Jujutsu Kaisen has extremely untapped potential because it only does what is absolutely necessary, which allows a plot like JJK to flourish, and it flourished pretty well. It doesn't spend time focusing on what's unnecessary, being able to move to the next beat pretty easily, while also leaving wonder for most people about more information, about what is in the world more and more. After all, JJK constantly sets up questions of intrigue for us to continue to wonder, while at the same time continuing to invest in things that are going to be extremely important to characters later on. Like I talked about the Zenin clan beforehand, if we didn't know how awful the Zenin clan was and just see how they treated things and treated life in general, for the likes of Toji and Maki, Maki's extermination of the Zenin clan wouldn't feel anywhere near as satisfying for most people as it was. I say most people because I know there are some Weird Naoya fans who exist. You know who you are. So because of that, we were able to learn about things like how important having a curse technique is to this clan, how important potential is to this clan, even the importance of gender roles in this clan in comparison to other clans where However, we don't really know as much. While yes, we do know a little bit about the Kamo clan thanks to Kamo no Hitoshi, it's not anywhere near as much in comparison to the Zenin clan and how it functions, the political inner workings, and even inner systems within that clan. And that's not even to bring up the lack of information that we know about the Gojo clan, mainly because these clans and knowing about them are not necessary at all, and that's kind of the case for a lot of things that people want to be expanded on when it comes to Jujutsu Kaisen. For example, one thing I know a lot of people want to see expanded on is the potential and possibility of nations overseas and how those types of sorcerers are, because we do know it is possible. It's extremely rare, but we know they're possible through Miguel. However, a lot of people do want to know more about those as well. Or curses and the type of curses that exist in the world. I'm not going to include the Heian era on this list, purely because of the fact that as long as Sukuna and Urame still exist and still live and breathe, the potential of a Heian era flashback or more Heian era info could be potentially possible, so that won't be included. But there are a lot of people who want to know, what type of curses are there? What type of curses can possibly exist that are causing havoc and problems for the world? But in my opinion, I don't think this is a problem at all, and more so just untapped potential for world building that I never see as a problem, because I don't think that there's a world building problem in JJK, mainly because of the fact that everything that has been built into the world has only been what is necessary for us to understand how the world functions of JJK, either right now or in the future. However, more importantly, I think there's actually another side of this that I think makes this really not a problem. Now, of course, there are easy ways for us to actually find out more and more about the world. For example, creating side stories. There is enough in terms of the JJK narrative and the JJK world for us to actually have a side story and for it to make sense for why it wouldn't affect the main plot, or even why it could take place before the main plot, because a lot has been established for the world to function, and not much would get in the way of how the world functions. Which, fun fact, there are JJK light novels for people who do want to know more and more about the JJK world, because the light novels do actually tell a lot and they are canon, so make sure to pick yourself up one of those if you actually do want to read them. Or be sure to check out this channel on screen if you do actually want to read some of the light novels, because they do pretty good at reading light novels. But more importantly, JJK is an expansive enough world where people don't actually talk too much about how there's not enough of an expansion on the world, and instead try and use what's already established in order to fit the places themselves, in order to create things based off of that, in order to fill in the building blocks themselves through speculation and things we've already seen about other characters. Now, this isn't really the case for all of them, mainly because we can't really have this as the case for other sorcerers from other nations, mainly because that's kind of hard to have without actually just creating a full-on OC about that. However, there are times where I've seen people try and fill in the blanks for things we don't know about the Kamo clan or the Gojo clan, just based on how the Zenin clan treats things, because we should know that all three of the families should be decently similar. JJK manages to tread the line where there's a bunch of speculation that can lead into very interesting discussion without making it so it doesn't feel like the world is completely hollow. The world has enough hints that more interesting things can possibly exist within the Jujutsu Kaisen world that we currently do not know about, while being able to expand on things that are absolutely necessary and allow people to fill in the spots and fill in the steps on their own about things they do want to know more about. Whether it's through their own headcanon or through things they research, they are able to fill in the blanks themselves. So to answer the ultimate question, I don't actually think that JJK has a world building problem at all, mainly because I don't think it's actually necessary to have to go in depth about literally every single facet of the world and how it all politically affects the world. I don't think every series needs to be a One Piece or a Hunter x Hunter. I just believe that the series needs to have enough world building for the series themselves to actually tell the story and for the story to function within itself through the world building and actually make the world seem somewhat alive, which I do think Jujutsu Kaisen succeeds heavily at, even though there are more questions that a lot of people have. But having more questions isn't a problem either, in my opinion, because if you do have this possible questions that can rise up, it can always lead into discussion, which having a bunch of discussions with people I don't think is a bad thing. If anything, this is what keeps series in people's memories for a longer amount of time. After all, this type of discussion is something that a lot of people still have for a lot of older series too. For example, Naruto. Naruto has a very similar problem to JJK, or at least quote-unquote problem. However, we know just enough about Naruto's world building in order for us to actually understand how the story functions, yet at the same time, a lot more is left up to mystery, even more than JJK, yet that leads to a massive amount of discussion that continues to happen. However, that discussion is not a bad thing. Discussion among fans, discussion among people is the best way to keep up hype for a series going. After all, if there is enough discussion among people, usually side stories like these will come out. Side stories where the questions will be answered. This discussion needs to be kept up for a long time. Rather than just calling it a problem, try and frame it in a different way. Try and frame it in a different light, and it will end up helping a lot. Like, of course, you could have just referred to this as a massive problem, that JJK doesn't have enough world building, and it only really gives us what is absolutely necessary, and it doesn't give us things that we could just wish to find out for, like more for the Gojo clan, rather than that just being your request. However, there's a better way to look at it, which is just what could be possible and maybe the discussion that could be opened up. After all, these discussions are very much open to interpretation, and it's very interesting to see people compare their own interpretations of what is the JJK world and what isn't possible in the JJK world with each other. Now, are there some things that I wish that could be more explored in the JJK world? Of course I do. For example, I wish the higher-ups influence it was more explored in the JJK world, because they sort of just exist. I wish that we could actually see the lives of more Jujutsu sorcerers other than just the main cast and the special grades. I even wish that we could see the average life of a Jujutsu sorcerer that's not a special grade, and maybe things like more of the Gojo clan. Now, of course, I wish for those things, but those aren't main issues for the JJK world, because the world building doesn't break the story. It just leaves things out and is untapped potential, but I don't think untapped potential is a bad thing or a problem. So long as the world building itself is not so bare bones and so hollow, which Jujutsu Kaisen certainly isn't that, then it's not a problem for me. So long as the world building works to help explain the story and help lead credence to the story and actually work with the story, it is not a problem, at least in my opinion. However, that is just my opinion, and I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below about whether JJK does have a world building problem or not. I hope you all enjoyed this type of video, because this is actually a pretty fun discussion type of video to have. Anyways, I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out, have a good day.